And welcome to the Patriot Radio News Hour. This is your substitute teacher, Glen Biddle, sitting in again for Double J and Eric. And we are wide open in Colorado for any precious metal needs. And, Jason's going to come on later in the show and tell you about a great special we have today, and he'll give you directions and details on how to do that, so stay tuned for that. Our website's up and running, allamericangold.com. We're coming to you live from 1010 Family Values Radio in Arizona, and also 1360 KHNC up in Colorado, as Eric likes to call it, the Children of the Corn. And, we're here to serve, doing what we can in these crazy times. I'm not going to have that odd commercial in these uncertain times. I hate those things. How about you? I'll never buy anything from those people that have commercials like that. So we'll never do that on this station. So I gave you some homework on Monday's show. As you know, I'm a teacher, and you had homework. Okay, now you're all sitting there. It's like, oh God, we had homework. Yeah, you did. You had to go to the National Debt Clock, usdebtclock.org, and take a look at the carnage that's going on with the debt. Okay, those are unvarnished, non-government numbers where you're going to see the real deal. Okay, from what the national debt is, from what the deficit is this year, the difference between the two, the unemployment figures, and I'm going to talk about that in a second because unemployment numbers came out today, and the unfunded mandates, which is at the bottom of the debt clock, which is the real ugly thing, and how much your share is in this. What if you could just write a check. If everybody wrote a check, we could get rid of this, right? But it's not up to us to write a check. It's up for our government leaders to fix this thing. And quit kicking the can down the road. Just not going to work. Trust me, if they kick this can down the road, they're going to break their foot. And maybe that's what needs to happen for them to wake up. Maybe that can needs to drop on their head a little bit and like, hey, do your job. That's what you were elected to do. Okay, we don't work for you. You work for us. Remember that auto worker that got into it with Biden last year, and he said, I don't work for you. Oh, well, that was very telling, wasn't it, right? So the unemployment figures came out today. This is according to CNBC, okay, so just consider the source. A record gain of 4.8 million jobs, smashing expectations. The unemployment rate drops to a government figure of 11.1% unemployment. So that's much better than 26% where we had in April. That was ugly. That is ugly and ugly. That's Great Depression numbers, right? So 11%, I guess we're happy about that, but it needs to get back down to like 2 and 3% where it was before all this pandemic took place and messed us up. All right. So as my morning routine, I go out and walk, and I listen to books on tape, and I've been listening to The Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm almost through it, and I come back and I sit down and eat my breakfast, and I turn on the Idiot Box. I like watching Squawk Box because, as Eric called it, it's the cheerleading channel. Okay, and they had the Parler CEO on this morning. Now that is the quote free speech or platform you can get on now. Now I've seen some articles saying they are still blocking people, just like Twitter and Instagram and all those things. But apparently the CEO said that it's for free thinkers and free speech. He's up for all of it. Okay, and when he was pressed on it, it's like, well, is there any line that gets crossed that you will take down? He hedged on that answer. He would not directly answer that question. And I guess the marketplace will have to sort itself out on that. You can take it for what it's worth. I know that Ted Cruz was saying that's the go-to site now. As they say, opinions vary on that. So you'll have to check it out, see what it is, okay? Because obviously Facebook is having a big problem right now. They are facing advertiser blowback as the advertisers want all this hate speech eliminated from their platform. Basically, what the advertisers want is for Facebook to kowtow to the mob, as they have done by writing checks to different organizations, and that money is ending up in Marxist coffers. If they just did their homework and maybe did a little investigation instead of being, bending the knee and kowtowing, they would figure out that maybe that's not the best thing that they need to do. They need to look into that. All right, so taking a look at markets, Dow Jones is up 215, almost 216 points, and NASDAQ's up 103. Oil is about $40 a barrel, which is decent. Maybe that'll save the shale industry. Gold's up $10, $17.90. And let's take a look at silver. Silver is up 12 cents at $18.34. And like I always say, I'm a silverite. I love silver. Stack it. I wish I had some coins in front of me right now. I'd clink them so you could hear them. Clink them. Okay, silver's at $18.34. Gotta love silver. Okay, you can buy a lot of silver. Okay, you can buy a lot of gold, but you can look like a king with your chest, or I like to put them in ammo cans. Open up that ammo can and just dump it out on the floor, and it's just, it's so cool. So there's the markets. I want to kind of touch base. So we had Shelby Gallagher on Tuesday, and we didn't even get through half the stuff that we were going to talk with her about. So we have her coming back on today. She's going to talk about her podcast that is just, this week's podcast is awesome. It's about destruction of cities. Now, one of the things I want to preface this with is we have to get rid of what's called normalcy bias. Normalcy bias. And that's believing that all will return to normal when all this shakes out or the storm blows over. That, once this is over, everything's going to be fine. No, it's not. Okay? It's unrealistic to think that the America that you knew 3 to 4 months ago before the pandemic, before COVID, or 3 to 4 weeks ago before Mr. George Floyd, how horrific as that was, that America's gone. Okay? That America's gone. We can't put that horse back into the barn. Everything that's happened in our city since then, everything that's happened to our society and our rights that have been taken away since this pandemic started, maybe we'll get some of it back, but we're not going to get all of it back. Look at what's coming down the road. Contact tracing. Okay. Or do you have to take the vaccine to go to work? Okay. Do you have to have the ID card that says you're COVID free? That's ugly. When we come back, we're going to be visiting with Shelby Gallagher from Prepping 2.0. Stand by. It's going to be a great show. I'm excited. Hope you are too. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Patriot Radio News Hour. That bump music bringing us back in has never been more spot on than it is today. Wow, it's crazy. Hey, today is World UFO Day. So I'm an X-Files fan, and, I want to believe, and I bet the Discovery Channel and the History Channel are just going crazy today with Area 51 shows and Ancient Aliens. Love all that stuff. I can watch that stuff all the time. I believe it. To think that we're the only life in the universe is very vain, in my opinion. So who knows? You got to have an open mind on all that stuff, because the universe is too big. I watched a thing on the Hubble telescope, and how far they can look back in time and distance is unbelievable. It's awesome. So getting back on topic, sorry about that. We got Shelby Gallagher with us today, and boy, if you're not listening to her podcast, Prepping 2.0, you need to get on that, because it has been so informational during the pandemic, and especially with all the rioting that's going on now. They have their finger, Shelby and her husband Glenn Tate have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. So their website is prepping2-0.com, and Shelby is the author of a 3-book series, A Great State. I have read it. It is amazing how it predicted what's going on right now. Shelby, are you with us?
I am. Good morning to you all. I was a little nervous there. I was having trouble logging in, so I'm glad I made it. I'm a little rushed, but it's good to be with you today.
Hey, it's great to have you back on. I have show prep. I'm sitting here with a legal pad, and I have 6 pages of notes from Tuesday's show. I got through a page and a half, so we're just going to finish up that, and then we'll just plow some new ground. So Chop Chaz, apparently it's gone now, right? Those kitties have all gone home to mommy's basement.
It is gone.
Shame. Oh, that's so sad.
It is gone. Yeah,
Good.
And it went yesterday, today's Thursday, yesterday morning at the crack of dawn, which is, I think, strategically and tactically for law enforcement, a good time to do it. And I watched a good part of that yesterday morning on a live feed. They just kind of came in, started sweeping things up, very respectful, and several arrests because of the occupiers of this location. And there's over 30 arrests of people who, planted themselves in the middle of intersections and whatnot. So, and the footage I'm getting so far of what the East Precinct looks like, it is a spray painted, vile word spray painted all over walls, destruction. And I think that's what we'll be seeing more of, is how awful that building was. It was how awful it was damaged, and the mess it has created, and how much it will cost to clean up. And it is very sad that all of this had to happen.
Yeah, and it's going to cost the taxpayers. And I know that the residents of that Capitol Hill area have sued the government. And the problem is, if there's a settlement, the taxpayers end up having to pay. So really the taxpayer always gets screwed on this. It should come out of Jenny Durkin's salary. She should have her wages garnished until that bill's paid, in my opinion, because it's all her fault. And even the governor, who didn't know it was happening the day it was happening, right? I mean, what an idiot. So Gosh, on your website, or actually on your podcast, I was listening to your current one today. You have the 100 things that run out of in a collapse first. Is red spray paint on that list somewhere?
It is not, as far as I can
be.
tell. I know that. Yeah, and that list, if you haven't listened to our show, you need to go listen to it. But we stopped doing it there for a while because everything, COVID and everything, just became so important. But it's the top 100 things that disappear in a collapse. It's if you go all the way back at the beginnings of our show, we highlight one every week. Except again, we kind of took a hiatus. We went back to it, and it was weird for Glenn and I to go back to it because it's like, a couple months ago, these seemed like good ideas, like, all right, we need to put these in our preps. And now we're like, no, we're using them out of our preps because it feels like a collapse is happening. And it doesn't just feel like it. I think we would all agree we're headed to something big, but we don't know what that is yet. But that 100 list is an amazing list. If anyone wants to know where it's at, you can go to our website at prepping2-0.com. It's in the lower right. It's a list put together by those, and I think it's very key to know this, that folks who survived the Bosnian collapse in the 90s, which is it was political, and it was, neighbor on neighbor, and it was ugly, and it was awful, and the world didn't pay attention, and all of that. And it was urban. All of those things are things that are happening now. So I think that list is very present these days. Yes.
Yeah, well, if I could make a request, can you have number 101 red spray paint for me? That would be cool. Because, I mean, think about all this.
Awesome.
And you know what? I saw something today that broke my heart. There was a guy arrested for spray painting a Christopher Columbus statue, and he turned out to be a middle school teacher. I have no words for that. None. I'm done. I'm done with that. That's ridiculous. Yes.
It is shocking to me.
Yeah.
The number of professionals, like not just teachers, but like there was a couple of attorneys out of New York. The people that are professionals that are educated, and it's shocking, isn't it? I agree. It's very saddened, and those are the people that are leaders. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was a police van in New York that got firebombed with Molotov cocktail. I think that was the lawyers you're talking about. Yeah, crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. So your current podcast, which is Destruction of Cities, I listened to it this morning, and I was like, oh, my gosh, we have to talk about this because this show is more of a Arizona-centric show. Obviously, we go all over the place with the podcast, but and you're listening to this on podcast, wherever you are, think about your town, your city, wherever you are. But for the folks listening on 1010 in Arizona, okay, think about Arizona. So one of the topics you mentioned was truck drivers not delivering to cities that are defunding police or having issues. Talk about that a little bit, Shelby, because that's huge for a big city, even a small town that's dependent on a Walmart or something. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So Glenn had gotten a message from one of our supporters and fans who is a truck driver. And in the recent CDL commercial driver's license magazine publication, poll was taken, will you deliver to cities that have a defunded police? 76% of respondents said no. Now, and I made us stop for a moment in that show. And if you haven't heard the show, it's okay. It's on our website, or you're going to hear it this weekend on KHNC. But you know how hard it is to get a room of 100 people to have 76% of them agree? I mean, we're Americans and we like to vote. That's a high bar. So 76% of respondents said no, they would not. And the reason why is because I think there's definitely within the trucking community, they all remember the 1992 beating of trucker Reginald Denny during the LA riots. He stopped at an intersection in a truck, was yanked out of his truck, and was beaten to a bloody pulp, tragically on camera as a news helicopter overhead. And we all saw it and we're all shocked. That's why, because they know that truckers, I believe, inherently know we're a target. People know that we've got cargo, we've got valuables, we have supplies in our trucks, and it can be very, very, you become a moving target. So if I had a choice, I would rather drive a truck through, the middle of Kansas and stop at a warehouse that is parked outside of an urban area I get why people voted that way on that poll, but that is huge. So if you live in an urban environment, that's where you are going to suddenly see yourself without trucks for a few weeks or so. And then that makes it so that just-in-time inventory is what Glenn Tate calls it, that, like big box stores, grocery stores, they don't have, you always hear of, oh, do you have any more in the back? No. Stock is kept on shelves. It comes off the truck and put on shelves. That's what's called just-in-time inventory. We don't have something to backfill when something runs out because we have trucks coming in all the time. And when those trucks shut down, it will get very interesting in an urban, high-density city environment to watch how quickly that changes, especially in an environment like a chop zone where, honestly, a truck shouldn't ever try to go in there, and there's no police, and there are not a huge criminal element that is robbing and stealing and looting on a regular basis. So that's what will happen. And I will say this, for me who lives in a very small town way outside of, we live far away from Seattle, but during COVID, we were seeing people from cities coming to our small town to shop for food because they couldn't get, the big toilet paper run of March and April. So if you're listening to me, you're like, oh, I'm okay, I live out in the country. Well, there's going to be a flip side to that as well. So yeah, the truckers have made it very clear in that vote alone how they feel about when going to a city, but also the other part of that discussion with this fan that we have was many truckers right now who are going into cities are using PMCs, private military contractors, for security. And that's where the hair on the back of my head stood up because that was my book 3, private military security to escort a person from point A to point B. They are using convoys. They are using somebody within the truck for security because that's how dangerous it is getting to deliver to some of these cities that are having such unrest. And we're not seeing all of it either. Minneapolis is still in a state of chaos. Chicago definitely is. Denver, I'm not sure about. We know that just recently in the last week or so, Provo, Utah, and Salt Lake City, Seattle, Portland is on its 35th day of straight violent rioting that you're not hearing about. LA is a mess. New York is a mess. I'm sure you could tell us, Glenn, what Baltimore is like. All of these are places where truckers, from what our intel has told us, are using private military contracting security because the police are not there if they actually do choose to truck within a city. Isn't that alarming? This is not the America I grew up with.
Yeah, what's alarming about that to me is that this happens in third world countries. And yet here we are. We have third world cities now is what we have in this country because there's lawlessness. There is no law, there's basically you have gangs running the town, okay? As you say in your podcast, the cartel effect, and the police are letting it happen. Either because they're being told to stand down, like in Baltimore, where the mayor said, stand down, let's give them room to destroy. I'll say this 100 times because as a leader of a city, you have just completely lost your right to be the mayor when you do that. And Jenny Durkin has lost her right to be mayor when she let that go on for more than one day, that chop chaz zone. Okay. It's ridiculous. Now you mentioned Minneapolis. They're getting rid of their police, and their city council voted to hire private security at $63,000 a week, and there is a move to bring in Sharia law into that town. Not United States constitutional law, but Sharia law. Now, if you look at the demographics of Minneapolis, maybe you can see why on that. Okay, but right? I miss America. As I said before, I said. I was talking about normalcy bias, Shelby, and the America we knew 3 or 4 months ago, that's the pandemic, and now 3 or 4 weeks ago, that's Mr. Floyd reaction is gone. That America's gone, and maybe some of it'll come back, but not all of it's coming back. I mean, it's scary. Okay, so you have to do what you have to. You have to prepare for the worst, and if things work out, hey, you haven't lost a thing. You've lost nothing if you've done that, right, Shelby?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah, it's scary too. I will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And right now, the only thing, as people feel unsure about, I mean, there are moments where I watch news headlines, and me, as a pretty vibrant prepper, get a little freaked out. Where is this train wreck headed? You know, if there's one thing that I have to stop and tell myself, I can only control what I can control in my own life and in my own sphere. And what is that? That's prepping. I don't know what this looks like on the other side, but I know that right here within what I'm doing, I've got full control. And that means that I'm in charge of my destiny. I'm in charge of that. So I feel safest when I'm prepping. I feel most unsafe when I'm not prepping, I guess is how a better way to say all that. But yeah, well, I'm sorry. I interrupted you though.
Oh, you're fine. I completely agree. Hey, when we come back, Jason's going to tell us about a really great precious metal special when we come back off the halftime. And then we're going to talk about Arizona-centric prepping, mostly about water, because you guys live in a desert, you know? We'll be right back. Halftime on a Thursday. Patriot Radio News Hour.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, a daily commentary continuing the conservative pro-family legacy of Phyllis Schlafly. Now, here's the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
A crucial part of leading anything is effectively managing what kind of people you keep close to you. President Trump effectively leads our nation with a team of dedicated staffers who agree with his pro-America mission. James O'Keefe's Project Veritas made waves earlier this year using undercover video footage to expose the communists and anarchists filling the ranks of the Democratic presidential campaigns. However, you don't need secret cameras to see the extremism in Joe Biden's presidential campaign. His staffers openly brag on social media about their extremist tendencies. When violent looters and rioters took to the streets in Minneapolis and other cities, wreaking havoc and breaking the law, President Trump made it clear he would deal decisively to protect the innocent and bring thugs to justice. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's staffers actually gave money to bail out the thugs. More than a dozen Biden staffers bragged about donating to the so-called Minnesota Freedom Fund, which puts up bail money for the violent Antifa rioters. A spokesman for the Biden campaign wouldn't even say whether these donations were coordinated within the campaign. Just like you'd expect from an establishment politician, that spokesman talked out of both sides of his mouth by saying that while Biden opposes violence, he also thinks the rioters shouldn't have to post bail at all. When there are thugs roaming the streets, terrorizing innocent Americans, we don't need a leader who will stay silent, and we definitely don't need a leader siding with the thugs. We need a leader with the guts to draw a line in the sand and follow through when it counts. The American people need a champion who will never back down when confronted by bullies and terrorists. We don't want to hide in the shadows anymore. We want to take our nation back, to live without fear for our person and our property. The first and foremost responsibility of any legitimate government is to protect its citizens. When November comes around, Americans will have to decide if the best person for that job is a man who says it like it is, or a man whose staffers pay bail money for thugs.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. It's no secret that globalists are bent on destroying Western culture. Whether the threat comes from inside or outside our borders, America must be protected from cultural Marxism and those who would deny American sovereignty. We're seeking your insight at phyllisschlafly.com. That's phyllisschlafly.com. And join us again for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
Welcome back to the Patriot Radio News Hour. This is your substitute teacher, Glenn Biddle, sitting in for Double J and Eric. 800-951-0592, allamericangold.com. So we do have an interesting special today. I'm going to let Jason come on and tell you all about it. Jason, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Shelby, just stick with us. This is going to be a little bit of a long pitch, but this is great, guys. The number that Glenn gave out, 800-951-0592. I got a couple things to cover. This special is really good, so go ahead. If you're ready to buy gold, I have a gold special. First, I did get to hear from Joe today. He's been very, very sick. He's got a lot of things to talk about. His plan is to get back with us middle to late next week, but it could be the following Monday. So we're thinking next week. Joe sounded in good spirits, but that's what we're planning. So the office has been closed in Arizona. It's been a rough week in here in Colorado and especially in Arizona, and getting a special on the air has been difficult. So this is the Wendy Can't Retire special. She has been a huge help to us. She's been a great part of Patriot Trading over the years. I've only got to know her for the last 2.5 years, and she's stepping forward and really getting things done because business needs to move on. One thing to understand, Wendy is working from home. She has one phone. So when you call for this special, please leave a message. Do not just hang up and forget about us. We want to take care of your orders. Wendy will probably be on the phones most of the day, so I want you to leave that message on the phone with how many you want to buy of this special. I want you to also call back and check later on to make sure Wendy has maybe called in a few hours or early tomorrow and call and make sure that she received your message, because with technology, we could lose your message. We don't want to lose your order. So give us a great deal of patience with this as we give you this really spectacular gold special today. We have 100 of them. $10 Liberties, one of our bread and butter coins. We have basically half-ounce gold coins, the $10 Liberty, 1866 to 1907. Now, if you look at Patriot Trading Group, you go to allamericangold.com. You'll notice that our $20 Liberties, as a non-special price, our normal price right now is $2,030. You'll see our $10 Liberties sitting at $1,035. Wendy was able to go out and get this special. We have 100 of them. We are going into the holiday tomorrow, and a lot of the places that we get our specials from, and a lot of the ways we can get the gold and silver to you is going to be shut down tomorrow. So we're going to sell this until it's sold out. We would like to sell it out in the next couple hours before they start to shut down on us. So if you want something, we have priced it to sell. There is no quantity discount because I just dropped the price hard on this. There is no thinking when you want to buy. If you've been waiting this week for something to buy, we've got this. We're going to sell these $10 Liberties at $995. That is $40 off the normal price. It is cheaper to buy 2 of these on special than to buy a $20 gold piece as a normal price. And to tell you the truth, if we had a $20 gold piece special right now, it would probably be $19.95. So getting one of these for $9.95, you can get 2 of them, obviously, for $19.90. You're getting them cheaper than a special on gold, $20 gold pieces. So you just need to jump on this one. This is about as good as it gets. The number is 800-951-0592. That is 800-951-0592. If you're having any frustration with getting through to Wendy, you could call over here to Colorado, and I will take some paper invoices. I'll write your orders down. That number is going to be 970-587-5003. I do have someone manning a phone here while I'm on the air. That's 970-587-5003. This is first come, first serve. Sometimes when we drop prices this low, we get a big buyer and they clean it out quick. So if you have any inclinations or worries, or you're thinking about it, don't think too long, because when you sell $10 gold pieces this low, they don't really last very long. So 800-951-0592. We think Arizona will be opened up next week sometime. I haven't heard from Eric. I'm thinking he may be ready next week late, and we may have Joe and Eric, and they may have a whole lot to talk about, and going to get this ship righted quick. And right now, this is the special. I don't think Joe and Eric will give you a special this good next week, but Wendy, this is the Wendy Can't Retire special. She's in the office. She's the one doing all the work while everybody else needs to get things right over there in Arizona. So yeah, there it is. Glenn, what do you think?
I think that's great fractional material. It's awesome. We could also call it "When the Cat's Away, the Mice Will Play" special. So,
well, Wendy was supposed to be retired this week, by the way. So if anybody out there that's been listening, Wendy was ready to move on. I think she would have lingered around in a support role. I was talking to her this week, but she is not allowed to retire. She is doing all the work today. That's why you must be patient when you call But we have a great team put together, Glenn.
Absolutely, we do, and we have a great person who is also part of our team on with us today because they also do the open forum for us on Fridays. Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. We have Shelby with us today. Shelby, thank you so much for hanging on for that. So we want to talk about like Arizona-centric issues right now. Like one of the big issues there, they've had fires up in the north part of Phoenix and water. They're in the middle of a desert. What if society breaks down and you turn on the tap and your water doesn't come on? What are you going to do? So a lot of people have pools in Arizona. What's something they can do if they have a pool in their backyard? Go ahead, Shelby.
That is I would say that's one of the number one top 5 issues if you're a prepper in Arizona. And I will say this, I've never prepped in the desert, but I've done a lot of research lately on harvesting rainwater, and Arizona, citizens of Arizona will be shocked to hear. In Arizona, you can harvest rainwater, which is wonderful. In the state of Washington, where I live, that is illegal. The state considers that one of their natural resources. And for me to harvest rainwater, water that falls out of the sky, from God and from Mother Nature, that's illegal for me to do. So I would step back and do a really hard look at how to store some water, how to, whether it be you pull it from your water supply that you have now in your home. Pools are very good for that. I would stop for a moment and find out how to convert that water that's chlorinated and chemically treated into drinkable water. There's ways to do that. I'm not super versed on that. That's one of my research projects I'm working on right now. But it's a lot easier to make pool water drinkable than it is, yucky, gross water from, say, a murky desert swamp or, desert yucky water that's muddy. But definitely look into that and look at ways to store it.
All right, we'll be right back. I can't believe you can't collect water in Washington State. It rains there every day. Unbelievable. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Patriot Radio News Hour. Shelby's going to talk some more about some Arizona prepping. For those 1010 listeners, stand by. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Patriot Radio News Hour. This is your substitute teacher, Glen Biddle, sitting in with Shelby Gallagher. We're so lucky to have her. Hey, Shelby, a lot of people don't know this. I know you do, and I know our audience does because they're smart people. In 1776, the Continental Congress resolves with the Declaration of Independence that the American colonies are and of right out to be free and independent states, but they had to get a nice clean copy, so it took 2 more days to get a nice clean copy for celebration on July 4th. So it's technically today. We should be shooting fireworks off today, right? So getting back now, I have had a lot of time in the desert, whether it was Yakima Firing Center out there near you, or down in California at the National Training Center, or across the ocean in the big sandbox. The number one issue is, besides shade, so you don't burn to death, is water. Okay. And you have to drink a lot of it, right? So I was drinking 10 to 15 water bottles a day when I was over in Saudi Arabia. And it was the humidity was so low, you didn't realize you were sweating. Okay. And you just didn't know it. And you weren't urinating a lot. And so you had to keep pushing that water all the time. In fact, I was in a pickup truck a lot of times, and we would just take the empty bottles and throw them in the back of the truck, and we would count up how many we drank every day just to make sure we were hydrating enough. So yeah, that having that pool in the backyard, obviously you can keep your toilets flushing with that. You can get a life straw while Amazon is still delivering. Get those life straws, right? I mean, that's a great thing to have, and you can filter a lot of water that way. Definitely need to have. There's a lot of fire going on right now. I think up in Eric's neck in the woods, up in Cave Creek, up there just north of Phoenix, they've had some fires up there. Whether they've been natural or arson, that's been a big issue. Lots of property up there, and so like if you're gonna bug out in the desert, and I was looking at a map, you got to have a lot of have a case of water or 2 in your car or whatever. Have that go bag ready to go. And you need to figure out where can you get to with a tank of gas and be able to shelter yourself in the desert. At night, it gets cold in the desert. It goes from 110 degrees down to 70, and that's a big difference in temperature. 70 degrees, you got sweatshirts on because it's cold. you're like, oh, no way. I'm like, yes way. You definitely are going to be chilly in the desert at night. So go ahead and talk about any of that you want to, Shelby.
Sure. So water, when you think about water, it gets really complicated really fast because so start small and go big. So you just hit on one of them. If you, in your bug out bag, especially in the desert, have a life straw, and also go to Life Straw's website, because they are really good at like Nalgene bottle purifiers and pitcher, so that you can have a very portable way of going. If you are bugging out and you're in a remote location, but you find a small lake. I've stood in a lake to test it at Life Straw, and I've drank water out of it. Really good for that. So yes, what you just said, bug out. If you're in the middle of a fire and a fire is coming, you're going to have to bug out. So make sure you've got not only some water in your vehicle, but a couple of Life Straw products. There's also a couple of other brands out there. Sawyer and Berkey make big, huge, and they probably now make more portable ones, water filters. Water filters are huge, but you need to be able to have a supply of water. And in the desert, that's where it gets kind of tricky. So in your bug out plans, figure out where the lakes and streams are that you can tap into. Use your filter. Cannot stress enough, do not drink water out of anything anything in the Rocky Mountains. And the reason why is because Giardia, sadly, has taken over those streams, and you can really cause yourself a lot of gastrointestinal discomfort. And if you have any sort of compromised immune system, you can really hurt yourself. So please don't do that. It looks pretty and pristine and cold. Please use a water filter. But there's some great products out there that are easy and portable. So that's if you're bugging out. In the desert, it is all about water supply. If you are able to go a little bit more sophisticated, I've seen a couple of really good YouTube videos on how to create a cache, burying out in the desert or burying out in someone's property, a barrel or two of supplies where you have some water filters, you have some water bottles, you have some food that can be hydrated and made into food, and creating a cache so that you have a small supply that you can go to. But yes, you need to keep track of when you are in the desert. I'm saying this is someone who's backpacked in the desert. Keep track. This sounds gross. Keep track of what you're peeing because of what you just said. If you're not urinating very often and it's dark, you're very dehydrated. Drink and find a way to drink, and that needs to be more important in a lot of ways than food. You can go a couple of weeks without food. You can't go more than a day or so in the desert without water, and it's very scarce. And then when there's fire abatement happening, those water sources get tapped even more. That's when you see helicopters grabbing waters out of lakes and things like that. So water is incredibly important for so many things in the desert. And it's just something, to me, it's something that you need to just plan for and prep for. And as soon as you're like, all right, we got water bottles in the car, we got Life Straws, we got Nalgene bottles, and you start ticking off your list, we're good. We're set. We don't need to worry about it. And I'll tell you this, if you ever want to see how miserable it can be without water, watch the show. I know this is going to be so funny, but I watched this show for this reason. The show Naked and Afraid. I know you'll get over the fact that people are walking around with pixelization on them, but they get put in the desert a lot. And to watch them kind of shrivel up and get really desperate and drink some of the most nastiest water because they are so thirsty, watch that and let that be your inspiration. I don't want to be there. I want to be hydrated. And it also helps you think better. You see what happens in these situations when people go a day or so without water, they start making you're like, that's a crazy decision. That's really risky. It's because it starts messing with your mind and your ability to make good, clear, wise decisions. Water is so important. And you could probably talk about that. You probably saw that happen with some of your colleagues in the desert when you're like, you're not right in the head a little bit right now, right?
The rule of thumb was when urinating, if it's clear, you're in the clear. So that was the rule of thumb right there. And you just got to drink. You got to stay hydrated because so many bodily functions are important on water level and content in your body. Hydration's key. All right, we'll be right back. Final segment. Jason's going to talk about that special again when we get back. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. I'm going to send it right over to Jason. He wants to tell you about the special real quick. So, Jason, floor is yours.
Yeah, so if you running into the show late, we have a extremely good special, something to remember. Tomorrow is Friday. It's right before the holiday. Our ability to get a special tomorrow is limited, if not at all. I'm thinking probably not at all. We have this special. We had 100 of them just mere minutes ago. Because of the office situation in Arizona, Wendy is by herself taking phones in Arizona, 800-951-0592. I decided to get a phone line going here. If you call the Colorado number, this is the KHNC business line. My mom or I will answer the phone. My mom was employed here to help us out with the radio station. You can call that number if you're not getting through to Wendy and you really want to get a person on the phone. We don't do invoices here. We don't have the business end of it, but I can get you if you call and you get an order in, it's guaranteed. That number is 970-587-5003. That's 970-587-5003. This is a gold special, not to be missed. We have a full moon on the 4th of July coming on Saturday, and we know how crazy things have been in 2020. So, who knows? We just don't know what's going to happen over the course of a weekend, and we could have gold at $100 more expensive by Monday. When we push gold this low, there's really no reason to wait around. These are $10 Liberties at $9.95. It's $40 cheaper per coin than our normal non-special price. It's cheaper. If we were running $20 gold piece specials, it would probably be $19.95. So two of these is cheaper than a $20 gold piece. You can get two of them for $19.90. A great way to get you an ounce of gold closer to the how many years you've been alive. Eric's analogy of how many ounces you should buy. I kept getting these questions. How many ounces should someone buy? How old are you? Get an ounce for every year you're alive. That's a good place to start. So 800-951-0592. A $10 Liberty for $9.95. We blew through 12 of them here in Colorado. We've never taken an order on the Arizona show over the radio station number. So if we're blowing out 12 of the 100, that means there's 88. That doesn't count anything that I haven't had a chance to talk to Wendy, how many she sold. So these will be gone very quickly. You can also call 970-587-5003. Glenn, finish it off.
All right, thanks, Jason. And Shelby, those are great fractional materials, perfect for preppers, right?
They absolutely are, and I recommend right now, especially with things being kind of dicey as they are, things have not settled down, and we have an election coming up. Just really good to keep some alternative currency on hand, and and totally recommend Joe and the team over at Patriot Trading Group.
All right, so thank you so much for coming on with us today, and but tell us all things Prepping 2.0. How do we get in contact with you? How do we listen to your podcast?
Wonderful. I encourage people to go check out our website at prepping2-0.com. You can check out all the episodes, and you can go all the way back to, we've been doing this over a year now. We have links to both Glenn Tate's books and my books. If you want to check out this series that he put together about 8 or 10 years ago, and mine's more recent. But yes, prepping2-0.com.
Great. Thanks so much for being with us. Get on those $10 Liberties, folks. 800-951-0592. Thank you, Shelby, so much for coming on. Thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again tomorrow. Patriot Radio News Hour. Always interesting.